Hey guys, it's Cassie and today we're going to be talking about the most iconic luxury items from each of the designer brands. We've got 12 brands today that I'm going to be going through. And these are items that maybe this is the backbone of the brand. Historically, this is the item that the brand was built of, and to this day, we still see that and we think, yes, that is X brand. And maybe it's more of a modern icon, okay? Something that as of more recent years, we look at and we go, oh my gosh, that silhouette is 100% X brand. I thought that it would be quite interesting, especially because I think that there may be a couple of surprises sprinkled in there. These are, of course, my opinions on what is the most iconic, but I think that you may enjoy. Guys, if you are new here, my name is Cassie and I'm a self-diagnosed luxury addict. I put out videos on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, so if you like luxury fashion, then you're going to love it here. So head down there, subscribe, turn on the bell, become a member of our luxury addicted family. When are we going to rehab? Never. Guys, are you ready? Let's go. The links to these items will be below. I'm going to be going through this in alphabetical order, so kicking it off with Alexander McQueen. This is items that are available now, and I would have said when Alexander McQueen was alive that there was so much ready to wear that was so him. The silhouettes that was just like, oh my gosh, McQueen, right? Judging on what the brand is now, what is the piece that I think still has stayed so inherently true to the McQueen brand? There is one item that really stands out, and let me tell you, back in the day, this item, blazing hot, all right? Absolutely, like, just such an it piece of the time. And this is the Silk Blend Skull Scarf. Oh my gosh, the McQueen skull scarves. Stop. They were the piece. Tight to your bag, tight around your neck, wear it in a sort of Pirates of the Caribbean fashion. Because of the fact that Lee McQueen always had this sort of fascination with nature and death throughout his clothes, and the skull was a huge part of that. It is very much the DNA of his brand. This scarf had us in a chokehold, let me tell you. The skull was, and still is to a certain degree, synonymous with the brand. We see it bags, we see it shoes and stuff like that, but to have like an it accessory, this was the sodding skull scarf. The next brand is Balenciaga, and this one was an interesting one, mainly because Balenciaga under Demna is so very unpredictable, but there are so many pieces within the brand that are extremely recognizable to the brand. Things like the knife boots, the motorcycle city bag, even the hourglass bag, which is definitely more recent. Really, I think the best ode to the history of Balenciaga and something that has been reworked year after year, season after season, is timeless, has to be the hourglass jacket / coat. This was inspired by the archival designs of Cristobal Balenciaga, who was a couturier, right? And it is that exaggeration of the hips of the female body. It's very specific, it's very much a striking shape, but it's also very versatile, which I think maybe a lot of most recent Balenciaga's pieces are very specific to a certain kind of person or style or whatever. I think that this coat is something that, the coat / jacket, is something that so many different styles can work and make work for them. So that's why I think it's an iconic piece. Next up, Bottega. So, harking back to the history of Bottega here, they came out the gate as a high-end luxury leather goods brand. And this, I think, has carried through to what we now know Bottega as, right? They are churning out it bags season after season, it shoes season after season. Whereas, yes, they do ready-to-wear or whatever, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the thing that when somebody says Bottega pops into your mind. Again, something that is so specific to Bottega is that intrecciato weave. They've always been about that craftsmanship. They've always been about a level of kind of like discreet elegance. If you notice, they don't really do logos. They still create their pieces in a way that is instantly recognizable to the brand. In recent memory, I would have said something like the knot clutch is so Bottega, but that is not available anymore. So I have been forced to choose a modern piece. And hear me out here, because I know that this is going to be controversial. I'm going to say it's the sodding pouch clutch. I really am. If you look at Bottega's offering now, what is the piece that instantly recognizable to the brand, started an entire trend, by its existence, you know? I think it's definitely a piece that threw a spanner in the works in a good way. Next up in the alphabet, we've got C. You know what C stands for? Sodden Chanel. Now, Chanel is one of those brands that has so many pieces that are very iconic to the brand, right? I could have sat here and said the ballet slippers, the slingbacks, but I really wanted to focus on a piece that every season is reworked, that has been a part of the brand for a very long time. And really this kind of comes down to two pieces. Number one, the Chanel black jacket, right? Usually in tweed, it's reworked every season. The Coco Chanel made this jacket kind of to do the polar opposite of what somebody like Balenciaga was doing. Something that wasn't going to cinch you in the waist. There was something a little bit casual, a little bit, it's that casual elegance that's always been a part of the Chanel brand, right? So definitely I think the jacket has to be one of them. But we can't talk about Chanel and not talk about bags, right? And whilst, yes, I don't think any of us can sit here and doubt the fact that the classic flap is an iconic bag, I think that we have to give some credit to its predecessor, which is the reissue, right? She's a little bit more of the quiet luxury. She's a little bit more if you know, you know. So, I don't know. I wanted to give her a little bit of credit because everybody would have sat here and said classic flap, which yes, I completely get. But also, do you want to know what the reissue, right? Let's give her a little bit of toot toot. Next up, Dior, and I feel kind of similarly about Dior as I did about Chanel. There's lots of different things that I could have chosen from, but once again I've got to boil it down to two things. Number one, the bar jacket. This is 75 years old. Actually quite a similar style to the Balenciaga Hourglass, but a different kind of shape. Again, this is a piece that has well and truly withstood the test of time, that they rework and, you know, doing different variations every season, tweak a little bit, whatever, right? So I think that give credit where credit's due. But, once again, we've got to talk about a bag in this situation, and it has to be the Lady Dior. This has all of the elements of something very, very Dior. You have the canage quilting. You've got the little charms that hang off, right? Christian Dior was a very kind of superstitious man, and all of these charms sort of like meant something to him, so it's an ode to that. It is a silhouette so super tied to the brand that if you see one, you know it's Dior, you know that shape, and will always be iconic. Let's talk about Fendi. Again, another luxury leather goods brand from the word go. The FF logo, apparently, according to reports, was sort of created by Karl Lagerfeld and stands for fun furs, because Fendi was one of the top furriers in the world at the time. And what's interesting about Fendi is that there's less kind of, this is going to sound bad, but I don't mean it to, there's less sort of like iconic pieces within Fendi that have been around for a long time. So the icon that I'm choosing is the baguette, which was actually introduced in the 90s, right? It's a pretty sort of modern icon, as it were. This isn't even a bag that has stuck with us since then. It died, it got reintroduced, blah, blah, blah. But this is a bag that I think helped a lot by popular culture and Sex and the City, you know, has really kind of like created a place for itself in history and therefore is iconic. And now we've got Gucci. Again, a plethora of items to choose from. There are so many kind of like symbols and icons within the Gucci brand, been with the brand since the 50s, you know? But I really think that there is one item that almost, I'm not going to say that like Gucci didn't invent it, but Gucci really put this on the map from the time that it was introduced through them, and they do this now to this day, and that is the horsebit loafer. Horse iconography, equestrian iconography and stuff like that has always been a part of the Gucci brand, and so you have that very Gucci aspect to a very timeless shoe design. It was introduced to women over the years. They do it in different variations, backless, not backless, with the fur or without the fur, you know, the Princetown loafers, whatever, you can have it monogrammed up to the next level, you can have it plain and simple and classic leather, you know, but they are so undeniably Gucci and so very iconic. H stands for Hermes. Look, I'm not going to sit here and beat about the bush. We've really got two items. If we're going to talk about history, if we're going to talk about who's been around the block the longest, it's going to have to be the Kelly bag. Previously known as the Sac à Dépêche, I believe, and then renamed the Kelly after Princess Grace of Monaco. I don't need to sit here and go on and on about how iconic this bag is, because I think we can all agree that this is one of the most iconic bags of all time. Next up, a brand that I've chosen is quite a new one. This is Jacquemus, and while it's very new compared to the brands that we've been talking about, to the luxury fashion game, it is also a brand that has a very specific aesthetic, and they've done a very good job of keeping their name in everybody's mouths, right? Since we really started talking about them, we haven't stopped talking about them. My choice here is obvious, right? And it is a testament to the fact that this bag single-handedly started the mini bag trend and therefore birthed the creation of TBE, Tiny Bag Energy, a way of life, right? This is the Le Chiquito. From the first time we saw this bag, oh my gosh, it has been the topic of conversation. And even to this day, if I'm out and about and I use this bag, it starts conversation always. Although it is definitely trendy, I don't think it can be denied that this is a bag that has solidified itself in history and is therefore an icon. Definitely on the more affordable side of luxury brands. They do this in so many different variations. They've made it bigger, they've scaled her down. Case in point. But this is so iconic that if anybody knows one Jacquemus item, it's this one. Louis Vuitton. Now, you may think that I'm going to talk about the Neverfull, the Speedy, possibly even the Alma. And whilst they are all core bags of Louis Vuitton, this brand was really born out of luggage. So I had to choose luggage as a hark back to the heritage, right? And look, whilst the trunks nowadays are priced upon request, they do have a very large range of luggage to choose from. Something like the Keepall, oh my gosh, it's such a no-brainer kind of travel bag. You shove it all in. The durability, the versatility of the bag knows no bounds. You buy this bag and you use it and you batter it for life. They age beautifully. If you even look at like vintage trunks and all of that, people turn them into coffee tables, whatever. There really is that beauty that still lives within the bag, even though it's been battered and shipped across on ferries and battered about in the bowels of airports for years. You know, there is something about Louis Vuitton luggage that is just always beautiful. The next one was a bit difficult for me. This is Saint Laurent. And I sat and I was thinking, I was like, is there a bag? No, there's not really a bag. Is there shoes that like iconic? Yes, I mean, there's shoes that you look at and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, YSL. But nothing that kind of like really ties into the DNA of the brand, in my opinion. And then I was like, oh my gosh, Saint Laurent really kind of invented an entire concept of clothing for women that didn't really exist before. Ladies and gentlemen, the women's suit, known as le smoking. Suits previously were for men. Yves Saint Laurent redesigned it for women, tailored it more towards the female body, and this is still such a core part of Saint Laurent. If you think of the YSL brand, she's sexy, she's chic. That suit aspect of it is still very much there. Tailoring is still such a huge part of the brand. I think it's pretty iconic to have an entire category of clothes that you kind of introduce to the world. And finally, Versace. You know me, I'm a Versace file, okay? I love Versace. But I can sit here and say that there are things that Versace does that aren't that like iconic within the world of luxury fashion. Bags, not really. Shoes, yes, they make nice shoes. Are they iconic? Not really. They do ready to wear very, very well. They have a dress that literally created Google Images, JLo's jungle dress, right? But there is one item that if you have to get something Versace and you don't know what to get and you want it to be so inherently Versace, it's got to be a printed silk shirt. Again, something that they do to this day and they rework in different ways for collections and everything else. This is something that is so tied to the Gianni Versace of the brand. Won't even find similar at another brand to the level that it is at Versace. And while it is so specific, so statementy, very loud, It's also something that will never be out of style, and that is a feat in itself. There you go. Let me know what you thought of my icons that I chose and my reasonings. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to leave a link to another video over here in case you haven't already seen it. Have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are. And in the words of my father,
if you've enjoyed it, tell your friends. If you haven't, keep your mouth shut.
I'll see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye, guys.